Hey, what's up, Dirty South? We are back. Ward Wrestling, Cabra Wrestling, and you guys know Jason from SE Wrestle. He was the originator of the Dirty South. We're just on his coattails.
I just my computer just opens this link every Wednesday at 11. I'm like, oh, what is this?
And you show up. Sometimes we
I
get a
guess I'll
dog in the
talk on
back.
it.
Today we do have a dog. You can't see
There's
behind us.
one.
There he is. We got a dog back there and some terrible, shitty blanket. So
OH.
Ohio State.
Someone's watching A1IO,
Uh,
so thank you. Go Bucks.
yeah. Hey, so a great show today. We've got David Mason with FAWA, head of the Florida team, or you know, I think he's co-head now, um, with Mako. I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, he's up there and he's going to come on. They've got a new thing called Tour of Florida. They're doing kickoff clinics. They're doing tournaments. Obviously, they're doing the Father Divine and the Fargo qualifiers, and there's a whole new system. It looks like they put together, and he's going to be on with us any minute. He'll jump on, and we'll bring him to you guys. But I sent you guys the information. I think David's been emailing you guys as well, and I I don't know if you guys took a look at it and saw how it's working, kind of got the gist of it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I actually saw his posts last week somewhere
Yeah,
and
I think
actually had
I texted
started
you guys.
working on it. And then he messaged me. We've messaged back and forth, and they've had some people come and go and dates change. So he sent me the most recent this morning too.
I think I texted you the flyer in the group chat that for the tour of Florida,
Yes.
or at least you could read the points and stuff. Jason, I know you've been in outer space with your real job, so welcome back.
Yeah, man. It's a busy time. It's a busy time. Not little chaos all over the world, but that's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. It's good
the
stuff.
Southeast has missed seeing you at a lot of these big spots. Hopefully, you'll get through this, and I know get your knee fixed and then be back out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I need that Jason buffer at state next year between me and Ward. You know, I just need that kind
You know what? Everybody needs that, right?
of
Sure.
Hopefully I'll be a little skinnier so then there won't be as much of a buffer, but you never know.
Well, I wasn't the one throwing food, so I
That's
was.
true. Maybe that's what that was Jason. He told us he couldn't go, but he couldn't stay away. But then he still got mad at my picks and ate ate half eaten strawberries at me and half eaten nuggets.
No, no, those nuggets cost too much
It was
money,
too
man.
much,
There's
man.
no way in the world I was throwing anything that I
That was an
spent
ex
$26 on.
that was an
Guys,
expensive roast of me.
I know what we'll expect David on here shortly. Did you guys watch any of I know we'll get into NHSCA and all the results and stuff. Oh, pause that thought. Here's David. All right.
Ward was working a good segue there too.
I
He was
was.
working.
That
He
was
I
that
was.
was
was.
good. That was good. That was professional.
Yes, I'm trying to be a little bit, you know, a little bit that way. But coming on as soon as he unmutes us will be Coach Mason with obviously Team Florida. And
Morning, gentlemen.
good
Should I
morning, sir.
So,
introduce it?
coach,
What's going on?
There he is.
Look at that.
Look at him.
Nice.
Technology.
What a beautiful mustache.
I must ask you a question.
Well, man, we were just saying that you were coming on to talk about the new Tour of Florida stuff that you guys are doing with the kickoff clinics and kind of a point system that you guys have put together, which will help hopefully encourage people to show up as well as uh, kind of compete for different point systems and to earn a stipend, right? Kind of the gist of it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so as you well know, in the summertime, we do a lot of freestyle Greco, and the governing body through USA Wrestling in Florida is FAWA. So to compete in Fargo or to compete at the national duels, you have to do that through your state's governing body. So we utilize a qualifying system to where your results are what qualify you or not for a spot on the team as well as a stipend. So I want to say we're going on the 5th year now, using the stipend system. This year, the board approved the highest amount that it's ever contributed towards the national teams, which I believe is just south of $67,000. So that money goes towards discounting our athletes' price to those national events. For the national duels, it's only available nationally for 14U, 16U, and junior, which is 18U as they call it. They offer the duels in male and female gendered. They're at different spots across the country, but the Father Divine is the qualifier for that. And it's pretty straightforward. If you show up to the Father Divine and you win, you have the first choice as the Team Florida representative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I know I sent it over to Jason with the point system and stuff, and he had mentioned how he had seen some of the other states using a similar point system. I'd imagine all the years you've been there, you've probably been doing some research how to get better and picking ideas from different places. But you're starting with the Tour of Florida kickoff clinics, which is there's one at your home school, Jesuit. There's one at Mako's place, American Top Team, one over at Westside High School, and then one up in Merritt Island, right? And I believe there's clinics and wrestling involved, kind of a little bit of both, right?
So this weekend is kickoff weekend. Like you said, Freestyle and Greco is officially here, and we tried to take advantage of that and offer some clinics for not only the wrestlers, but for the officials and for the coaches to get a very in-depth look at the new, or not the new, but the rules in general and the interpretation of the rules, because as we know, Freestyle and Greco, the scoring is different. So a lot of times, these major events, those are the first time that a lot of these kids see Freestyle and Greco action. And, I would equivalent that to hey, we show up at the knockout for our first high school wrestling tournament of the year. It's not going to be a great result, and it's especially not going to be great if you don't even know the rules. So wrestling is wrestling, but the scoring is different. So the last few years, we've taken some feedback from our members and our card holders, and just listening to the coaches, we realized, it would be beneficial for us to set up something that allows for a uniform system to be kind of taught. And we have the rules clinic broken down into a slideshow that our head official, Josh Gruby, put together. So he's actually one of the officials that goes to the World Championships, is on the ballot, each time for major events. Every year they put together a video through USA Wrestling with new interpretations and just explaining it all. So he took that to the next level, kind of helped us out. And what we did with that is, or what the goal is we have those clinics. 2 of them are on Saturday, 2 of them are on Sunday. So hopefully if you have a scheduling conflict, you could still make one. They're in different areas. They're tried to be spread out as much as possible. And in that 4-hour time frame, the goal is for the officials to not only talk and teach the officials, but to speak to the coaches and the wrestlers in the same way, kind of to hear and work through all of that. And then the kids will have the opportunity to learn some freestyle technique, then also scrap and wrestle live in the clinic, and the coaches are there. They're going to have an immediate opportunity to practice those skills or just to look at it while the kids are wrestling, and then hopefully give us some feedback on what we need to work on before we get to the major events, so that we can help these coaches and clubs out, put a practice schedule together or a practice plan together, and help them kind of reach for their goals in the same ways that we did when we first started doing freestyle and Greco. It's like a foreign language to a certain extent. When you start throwing around different words and different points, like a kid coming into wrestling class as a new student, we're telling him to sprawl, get in a stance, do this, do that. Like, these are all foreign words to him. It's like Spanish, right? So when we start freestyle, we start throwing around these words that that are keywords or that the officials use. And if you've never done it before, it's a completely different style. Like
Well,
the officials are supposed to be aggressive. There's three of them. They're speaking directly to you, which is not something that anyone would do in high school. So what I've noticed, like, if you've never done that before, it can throw you off. It can get you off your game, and the passivities certainly will throw you off if you've never understood or wrestled with passivities.
well, and it's not only that, coach. I mean, it's a learning experience for some coaches, especially new coaches who come into freestyle and Greco and don't understand the step out or parterre or being put into particular situations, what the official's looking for you to do, what you're allowed to do as far as approaching the table and those sorts of things. So it's a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, it's well said. I know one of the reasons, people ask me a lot, but one of the reasons our program in particular and a lot of the very successful high school programs right now, they switch over and do freestyle and Greco is just for those reasons. Good wrestling teams and coaches tend to put their kids in a lot of adversity and help them through these hard times. Every time we switch over to freestyle and Greco as a coach, it makes me uncomfortable. I'd just be flat out honest. I love freestyle. I know just as much or more about freestyle, but we're changing. We're getting out of our routine. We have to build completely new drills. We have to talk to them in a completely different way. You have to up your energy to be able to make those things happen. So as a human being, I know that I'm signing myself up for something that's harder. So therefore, when I do it, a lot of times I don't want to do it, so I get the natural, like, hey, this is not for us. But the results that we've had and the progression that takes place by changing up your practice and forcing yourself to be a better coach, forcing your unit to work differently, I think we get major growth out of our kids, and that's why we do it.
Along those lines, because Florida's so big and there's kids all over and coaches all over, how important is it that you guys had this idea of these clinics to get everybody teaching it kind of the same way as much as you can? So when you bring them all together, they have kind of that shared experience. Because I've noticed you guys are really emphasizing not just being at tournaments, but you need to go to these clinics. The coaches need to go to get everybody on like Florida's page. Also, I would imagine is a big key to what you guys have put together here.
It's like you guys practice this podcast thing and you like you're well versed in your mannerisms and in your dialogue, and this is well done. I'm sorry that I don't get a chance to watch it regularly, but you guys are impressing me. Yeah, so Brant, you're an intelligent man, obviously, paying attention a lot. One of the things that you recognize, like you said, is, man, you could drive 10 hours and still be in the same state if you start at one end versus the other, which I have some property up north. It's like a completely different climate, even up there. It's a different world. And the advantage that I had, I believe, as being the national teams director at the beginning of all this is it's grown tremendously in the last few years. And within that growth, one of the things that we made very apparent is that we're going to be transparent, right, versus the old regime. And that on top of that, our goals are very similar to what USA Wrestling's goals have to be. And that is to be inclusive to everybody and to recognize the value and the need for women's wrestling, not just for women, but for men in general, and how they play off of each other. And if we want to, keep our sport around 10 years from now and when my son's in college and still actually have colleges left, we have to be very thoughtful in the things that we're doing and make sure that, that we're trying to grow the state. So when you say Team Florida, we're not talking about Team Central State, Miami, Tampa. Like, it's the whole state of Florida. It encompasses the whole state, and our members and our club members are from one tip to the other. So how are we servicing our members in a way that shows that they're welcome and that we value them no matter where they're at? So I value wrestling. I value kids and participation in wrestling. And I know that for most kids, they're just one person believing in them away from being special, right? So I don't know if that involves a particular city or place, but anybody who's willing to put the type of effort into it that we're talking about and also is a good person, we want them involved. So what we saw in the past is our women's program, for instance. Last year we took 60 something girls to Fargo, and we took about 30 something to the duels for 16U and juniors. When we look back through the statistics and I looked at the girls, like, and I compared them from high school season to that, we had over 90% of the girls that made the state finals on our team, right? And then we had a very high number of third placers that were on our team also, right? Then when I look at the girls from this year, the girls that won the state tournament, like, I know them all, I recognize them all. Okay. So then I look at the boys' numbers and it's very similar, but it's a larger group, right? We took 110 kids, and then you have 3 divisions. So it's a larger number of moving parts, but it was still over 65% of those kids that were in the state finals chose to be on Team Florida, right? But when I looked at the biggest picture of that at the actual competitions that we went to, 60+% of our state champions and our state runner-ups went 0-2 at these tournaments. So is it that Florida sucks at wrestling, or is it that we're just maybe missing the ball a little bit on the exact thing that we're doing? And wrestling is wrestling, but if you're trying to win at the highest level, you need to be well-versed in parterre, well-versed in the rule set. You need your first 20, 30 matches to be before you get to the tournament. So when I'm talking to these girls, and the boys too, 75, 80% of them had wrestled less than 10 freestyle and Greco matches in their whole life. We're at Fargo, okay? And the first tournament that they wrestled was the qualifier. So we obviously see that if people are doing all of this, and in my mind have very little chance of being successful at this term, if they're willing to do all this, then they're willing to do it. So we need to improve our product, and we need to figure out how to include everyone, right? Not just the people that look like they're the best ones at the weight, right? Not just the shiny one. Like, we need to be inclusive to everybody, and we need to give them an opportunity to grow into what it is that we believe Florida's capable of. So without a series, without these things that we're talking about, without a requirement to do some of them, I don't foresee any of these things changing, right? Now, at the same time, if one tournament is a requirement to be in the big one in the qualifier, and you're saying that that is too much, right? Or that we can't make that happen, then, I've seen what the results of that are, no matter how good you are in folk style, no matter, how experienced or whatever that is. So we love to give opportunities, right? Number one, but we want the people that are on these opportunities to get the best bang for their buck, and to also have a chance to be successful, right? Not just look at this trip like a great memory only, right? Let's add that to one of the things that we do get from this trip, but let's go there and get better at wrestling. Let's have the success that we're supposed to have. Let's not lose matches that we should, right? That's the type of mindset that we always press for kids to be successful. But I realize as an adult, a lot of that falls on us doing the right thing.
Yeah.
The kids are going to do what we ask them to, or what we push them to do, or what we encourage them to do. If we don't set it up correctly, we're setting them up for not for success. I don't want to say failure, but we're not setting the masses up for success. Not just Jesuit High School or Tampa Tigers, who have 5 coaches that could coach freestyle and great. I'm talking about everybody. So that was a big portion of it. The board is spread out all over the states. It's divided basically evenly throughout the areas, and the representation is even. And this was a goal of ours. I think, we're making great strides at that. But to your point, just a few years ago, we didn't have a full set of officials. We didn't have somebody that was capable of doing all these things. So you could throw it all in place and really have incapable people of doing it, or it seems like we try to get the right people and build it up slowly. So I think we're doing that. To your point, the tour of Florida and just the participation of the coaches and the clubs wanting to be involved, looking, showing interest with their school and looking at the dates, trying to figure out if the gym's available. All these things have changed, right? So the behind the scenes stuff and just the, I would say, just the excitement of the stuff versus like before a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, these same conversations were like I was, nagging somebody, like I was calling them to sell them something. Right now, it seems like it's very easy to get the phone answered and for people to be involved.
Yeah. You guys could follow up with him on that. I just want to say, obviously, Brant, you haven't been out to Fargo, but Jason and I are there typically every year covering it. And I mean, obviously the guys behind them, we all know are Florida legends and they're good wrestlers and they're all state champions, but we always see peppered on the boys' side and peppered on the girls' side are kids that are freestyle focused and all-American, make it to blood rounds, a couple all-American, they get big wins and they've never even placed at our state tournament, but because they've been practicing that style, you tend to see them have some success out there that they're not having here. Anyway, go ahead, guys.
So, I think the thing that I think is really important to talk about, Coach, is that number one, every state kind of does it differently, and that I think that that's important for Florida parents to know, for Florida people to know that you guys, from my perspective, and I was part of FAWA back in 1999 and 2000, and taking the duals teams and all those sorts of things and everything else. I love the kind of evaluation and the reflection. You're looking at what's working and what's not working, and you're trying to make the product better, and you're trying to give the kids who are going to go a better opportunity to be successful. And I know people don't really like change, and change is one of those things, but the truth is we grow from trying to put a system in place to be better than what we were previously. And I think that that's what you're doing.
So if everyone hates change, but then everybody also hates all the details of what we're doing, then what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to please everyone, but I think the advantage that we have is the people that are helping to make the decisions or putting the effort in, they're all coaches, right? Every one of us is a volunteer, right? I'm
Right.
volunteering my time as the chairman, all these other things, and the people with their titles, they're all volunteers, right? So there's nothing really for them to gain except for we got sick and tired of complaining, or we got sick and tired of looking at a product and saying like, hey, this is not great, this is not great, we should do this, we should do that. After a certain amount of time, we said, well, we got to stop talking about it. We got to put these right people together to start putting effort into doing what we're saying. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's a lot more. How do I say this? It's a lot of effort. Okay. Don't get me wrong. And
It
most
is.
people are going to look at that and go, well, I should just if I'm going to put that amount of time into it or whatever, I need to put it into my own team or my own club. Right. Um, I understand that philosophy or thought, but plugging yourself into the circuit and the best coaches in the state, it does the same thing for the coaches.
Yeah. You
So you
grow.
have to look at the big picture of it, and in the same way that we're trying to set these things up for the wrestlers to be in position to be successful, we want to do the same thing for the coaches and the officials, right? So the
Right.
team leaders are leaving their family, they're going on these trips as volunteers. And although it's a privilege and something that you should take extreme pride in being selected in, it's still not a paying job, right? And you're going out and you're doing 10, 12-hour days for 10 days in a row and walking 12 miles a day in a 100-yard stretch, right? Like, to do that, you have to be ultra committed, and you also have to see that there is bigger picture there and purpose in what you're doing yourself and trying to help yourself, and not just trying to be the Robin Hood of coaching, where it's like I only coach because I love the kids and I want to help them. Like I'll be the first one to tell you I coach for very selfish reasons, right? Every time my son myself up to do this stuff, I know that I will not let the kids down. I will do whatever it takes to be a man of my word. That's just part of my personality. So whenever I sign myself up for this stuff, I'm making that next level of commitment with them to chase these goals, right? So at the same time, what I feel like my coaching strengths are and make goals for all these things so that I can chase down and be motivated at the same time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's like these clinics are a great example of, but that's not behind the scenes. This is all stuff that, you know, if you're involved in the circuit and you work to be involved, or you just show up, you see that there's a whole lot of growth being done around the wrestling community, and it's not just the wrestlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
got, I don't know if you have anything, Brant, but what I wanted to do, I know that, our final, you know, on the backside of this, our last 20, 30 minutes, we're gonna, go over NHSCA results and things like that. And you're welcome to stay on with us if you want, David, or probably got other stuff to do. But the one thing I wanted you to do is, before we kind of wrap up, and all great information, is two things. How does the point system work, right? We want to know how the point system works, because we went through explaining that we have a point system. But, and then, it says on there only approved TOF events. So either what events are approved, or how would somebody find those events and the ones that are approved? Does that make sense? I'm kind
Yeah. So, I mean, the greatest resource that we have is obviously the website, right? So we actually at the first of the year changed our web address, basically removed everything that we possibly could from the olden days and starting fresh. So on there is that schedule that you're referencing. That is the Tour of Florida schedule. That's the official schedule. So if it's not on there, it still can be a USA Wrestling sanctioned event. Like, anybody can sanction their event through USA Wrestling, but the actual Tour of Florida ones that you see on the schedule are the ones that you earn points from. So the point system, like we spoke about, is the big picture is intended to grow the Florida wrestling community, obviously. Now, the requirements to register for the state tournament is that you go to one Tour of Florida tournament, not event. So the camps and the clinics count as 1 point, but they don't count as that requirement for the state tournament, if that makes sense, right? Now, the kids that are looking to claim a stipend, so your 14U, 16U, 18U dual teams, and your Fargo 16U and junior 18U age groups, when they place at the state tournament or they qualify for a stipend, part of the requirement to get that money and that discount is that you have gone to one Tour of Florida event or tournament, which you would have to do anyway to go to the state tournament, and that you have earned 4 points. So the point system is pretty easy, right? If it's a camper clinic that's on that Tour of Florida schedule, it's worth 1 point. If it's a Tour of Florida tournament, it's worth 1 point. Now, there's a difference between a major and a tournament. We have 2 majors in the freestyle calendar. That's Father Divine and the state tournament. The Father Divine is the direct qualifier for the dual teams, and the state tournament, the top 3 are auto qualifiers for Fargo. What you place, how you place, first, second, or third, it determines what level of stipend you will qualify for, right? If you're qualifying and you don't meet your 4-point requirement and you still want to go and take your spot, you can pay the full price, if that makes sense, right? So outside of the state of Florida, USA Wrestling has majors also. So any of the regional tournaments, like our regional tournament is Southeast Regionals in Atlanta. I believe that is May 17th and 18th. All of the majors, whether it be Florida or out of Florida, those are worth 2 points.
Nice.
So that's essentially covers everything. If it's a major, it's worth 2. If it's a regular Tour of Florida tournament, it's worth 1. If it's one of the kickoff clinics, it's worth 1. As long as you've went to one Tour of Florida tournament, paid and competed, you are eligible for registration for the state tournament. If for some reason you go, to a Tour of Florida tournament and you have absolutely nobody in your weight class, if you've registered and paid and collected, you're eligible for the state tournament.
So this is great. And I do love that the process of educating everybody from the ref to the coach to the kids, because we've definitely seen from that year in Tampa to the year at Osceola, or even before that, the improvement on the refs as well. I mean, I remember some vicious arguments happening between coaches and athletes and referees happening 4 years ago. And now, as we get further into it, you don't see that happening as much. You see tournaments going through it. You see kids understanding it, coaches knowing what's going on, and refs making great calls, right? I mean,
yeah. So one of the things that we've really worked hard to improve is that at those major tournaments, especially Father Divine, the state tournament, just like you'll see at regionals, that we are practicing 3-man mechanics, right? So when you go to major events, it's not one official on the whistle. It's 3 officials. They have a particular title and they have a kind of a pecking order, right? When you score a takedown, for instance, I shoot a double leg and I get a takedown, whether it's obvious or it's not obvious, 2 of those 3 officials have to agree on the value of the point and who scored it before it becomes a point, right? So when we wrestle high school season, we have one guy throwing up the points. Sometimes you got an assistant, but technically in the book, the assistant referee's job is not points. It's only, certain things from the guy on the whistle. When we're at these major events, and in those years past, when we didn't have a large number of officials that were educated and we couldn't do that, and I remember a lot of times that, there were arguments and things. I think, that's a pretty normal thing for wrestling tournaments, but just like anything else, if you're an official and you're brand new, you're going to get different treatment than somebody who's well respected and been around, whether you're good or not, right? That's irrelevant to the cause. This is just how wrestling people are. You have to prove yourself, right? So once you are around, or if you're learning and growing in this process, people see you at tournaments, right? Then you get that normal, like, all right, this is one of the dudes that's going to be there. Maybe he doesn't call everything great, but we at least know how he calls things, right? So when you have 3 officials, that I would say get curbs a lot, right? And the best 2 out of 3 becomes the norm, and the guy that's the chairman that has the ultimate power. If something is completely out of whack, he has the ability to pull a conference over, and there's just so much more to it, right? So we're trying to duplicate that as much as we can. The next step in that process is that we have, actual video review, and we work towards having the ability to do that. We're not there yet. That takes, a different animal to work with. But that's our goal. When we started, our goals were a little bit more simple, and just having the right events and having the proper gym to host it in so that everybody's in the same location, and just very common sense things. Now we're working into how good can we make this product? That's what we're really trying to do. And if the Olympics is the ultimate goal, because we're an organization under USA Wrestling, and to go back to a little bit earlier, that's $67,000 that FAWA contributes to the national teams. It's the largest contribution in the country by far, right? There's states in our association that have double-digit million-dollar budgets, and they don't give any money back to their kids, or they just provide the trips, right? What we originally did all this for, and still is, to make it competitive, right? We're giving money away. We're reducing the price of the trip to try to draw the best athletes possible out, the ones that want to compete, the ones that want to put it on the line, the ones that want to spend the whole summer trying to get better, right? And you see the same type of thing happen in those. These are the same kids that are wrestling in the state finals next year, or the kid that didn't qualify that's right there, right? They don't just all of a sudden become a good wrestler. You don't make good wrestlers on accident. Okay. So all of this stuff is kind of geared towards that. And it's not just for one particular unit at this point. Anybody has the opportunity to utilize the resources that we're talking about. And once you become a member, once you have a sanctioned club and you utilize the website, it has curriculum plans for coaching, for freestyle, for Greco. Like, there really is no excuse to not try coaching or working with freestyle and Greco unless you just don't want to do it. Because as a coach, every one of the resources has an embedded, URL that sends you to a video and shows you how to teach it. It shows you somebody doing it. Like, you remember when we had 400 VHS videos to try to watch and learn a move, like, or out of a book? Like, there's so many resources, and now they're all free. Like, I mean, this is the benefit of USA Wrestling. If you get into it and you understand it, they have coaching, teaching, levels of it, colleges, they call it. You start with your copper, and then you get your bronze, then you get your silver, and then you can become gold. All of these things teach you how to operate around coaches, officials, wrestlers. It gets specific to age groups. So it teaches you how to coach all different ages, different genders, how to set your practices up, how to, like, endless resources. But you got to want to be a better coach, So those things, like, I always had the drive to do it. It was never put together. So you always did it on your own. And this just makes it incredibly easy. It's all right there. It's like a library of knowledge, right? And then on it, it's every coach that you would, pay to have a clinic or know, and they're showing it, breaking it down. Like, it's not like you have to know it beforehand. They're going to walk you through the whole process, tell you what to call it, show you how to do it, what to look out for. It's an amazing resource. So
And it's cool to see the landscape change on social media. You start seeing the coaches put stuff out there and spin it. But man, I really appreciate you jumping on with us, Coach, and going over this. And I mean, throughout the summer, we typically do this on Wednesdays unless one of us are stuck somewhere. But you're welcome to jump on with us. I'm sure as we get closer to Fargo, you'll probably want to jump on and talk a little bit about that. And
let me throw a couple things out there too, because I believe it's worth noting. Like, we put a lot of effort into, again, trying to get the best bang for the buck. And one of the things that we do is, with all the registrations, like the major registrations, we offer an early registration. So for the Father Divine, for instance, right now it's $45, the cheapest that it can be, and that USA Wrestling sets for major, right? And then when you're 2 weeks out, it increases by $10, right? And then when you're a week out, $10, and then 72 hours out, $10. So I know a lot of people like to wait to the last minute, but it costs you double when you do that, right? So two things that are of importance, right? If you want to go to a USA Wrestling event and you want to coach your kid, you have to have a team leader's card. All right. So one of the things that I do value about USA Wrestling is they do an extensive background check. They make you do safe sport qualification things, which is teaching and continuing education, that are mandatory before you can get your card, so that when you're at the tournament, and you're at a FAWA tournament and someone has a coach's band, you know that they've been through the vetted process and that they have a card, and that it works in a controlled system, right? So these are the same requirements and basic requirements for coaches that want to coach for Team Florida, right? You have to have that team leader's card, and you need a copper and a bronze level coach's certificate to be eligible to coach on the floor. So we get lots of applications for team leaders. That's what they call coaches, right? But I would say a good majority to half of them never get to the process of being voted on because they don't have the requirements. They turn their form in and they don't have safe sport, or they don't have their card, or they don't have copper, whatever it may be. But these aren't our rules. These are USA Wrestling's rules. So even if we chose to say, hey, you can be on it, when you get out there, you won't be a coach. You'll be sitting in the bleachers, right? So a lot of the information is on the website, how to qualify. The Father Divine's at Venice, and that's coming up in like 4 weeks, I want to say, at the first week of May. So if you register in the next couple of weeks, it's still the cheapest price, and that's the same thing for the state tournament too. The earlier the better, and it just expect an increase in price change as you get really close to the date. That is a normal process, but we fought really hard to not have the $75 price the whole time,
Very
That's
so
cool.
that people that are trying to can actually, plan and budget a little bit.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everything you guys are doing. I mean, the team you have is unbelievable. And I always, every time I come back, I tell parents, uh, you should spend 10 days out there with those guys. If you really want to know what's going on, you should experience that. You should see what these coaches do for your kids out there. And then, if you want to complain after that, feel free, but go
And
experience.
the most thankless thing is doing that schedule, I'm sure.
Yeah, go
Just since you
experience.
messaged me last night, you had 2 changes. I mean, that's the stuff
it's-
people don't see. That's a lot of like
Yeah.
it's not even anything you're doing on the mat that I appreciate what you guys are doing is the time to, it is hard to build schedules around things and availabilities and locations. And so I don't know if people realize how tough that even is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, especially with the state tournament and how abruptly that ends. And then there's, like the nationals, all that, but freestyle season's here right away. And I think, especially this year, people waited till the last minute and they didn't realize that, well, we have a lot of people that want to do this. So changes, yeah, they're gonna happen. But for the most part, that's as close to
good.
finalized as we can get on the schedule. And if something changes, obviously we'll update and let everybody know.
Yeah, well,
Coach,
get
we
out to an
appreciate it.
event, get out to an event this
Yeah.
weekend, guys, and get learning and get coaching and get wrestling and just have a good time. And Coach, man, I appreciate you jumping on with us and going over this. We're going to talk about NHSCA's now throughout the Southeast. You're welcome to hang out if you'd like. If not, have a good day.
I got another meeting. The FAWA website is FloridaUSAW.org. I mean, you could
Yep.
obviously Google it, but that has all the qualifying, all your stuff if you need it or missed anything. Best
Sounds
of luck,
good.
gentlemen.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you
for your
so
time.
much, man. Thank
All
you
right,
very
thanks,
much. Have a great day.
Come on anytime.
Invite me back soon. I'll be willing to do it. Thank you.
All right, see you. Well, that was good. Glad to have him on there. And there's a lot of stuff he went over. Because you hear complaints, you hear questions, you hear concerns. And
Yeah.
People are always going to complain.
And
though.
I think
And so
that
what you got to do is put the best product and the best
Right.
the best plan that you can have, and I mean, you could have a perfect system, you're still gonna have someone complaining.
Yeah.
But they've taken everybody's thoughts and maybe not even the complaints, but like ideas, and you can tell they're spending a lot of time building into this and trying to get it better. And I like his point of, all right, we had goals of getting people, to be able to compete and be able to officiate. Now let's get it to where they're good competing and they're good officiating and they're good. You're not just showing up. You're showing up with a chance to make noise, and I appreciate that because it's a process, and they seem to have embraced that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, go to another state, see how they do it. I think will be very
Or remember
surprised.
how they used to do it here.
Yeah, well, and the way they used to do it there. I mean, I was a team leader back in 98 and 99 and 2000, and I know exactly what that process was. So you should appreciate the level of thoughtfulness that is going
Yes.
into putting this together. So
Yeah,
that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and it's great. And you know what? Even talking to JT, who's high up on the board there, and he's going out because he wants to Greco. He's been talking to Greco specialists around the country and trying to pick their brains on how to make us better in Greco. That being said, man,
Folk style.
Did the Southeast show up this weekend at NHSCA's or what? I mean, I was reading both of your articles. You guys put articles out, so go to Substack, go to Cabo Wrestling, SE Wrestling.
And just to warn you, no article on mine. I just put all the results up,
Yes,
which
but,
took like 3 days. It's like
information.
Yeah.
Great article. The best article I read was Sunshine State of Mind with a picture of a North Carolina kid.
No, Georgia kid. It was a Georgia kid.
Oh, it was not on, right? On.
Yeah,
Georgia
it was Ronan
kid.
on.
It was a
And
Sunshine
yes,
State of Mind.
you're absolutely right. It was, what's funny is is the junior one says Georgia on your mind. Georgia should be on your mind, and it's gonna have a picture probably of a Florida kid on it. So there you go.
Perfect.
Got to
I
use the
love
art
it.
that's good.
It
But
is what
man,
it is.
so I mean, listen, lots of All-Americans out there, lots of big things happening, matchups that we were hoping to see, but some guys
Didn't happen.
didn't
Didn't
happen
happen.
or didn't show up. Maybe they were registered, but they decided against competing this past weekend. But man, you guys have been doing your research. What were some of your big takeaways from this weekend?
I mean, you want
Brant,
to
you
go
want to start? Or
first?
you want me to start?
I'm Florida based. I mean, for me, Lake Highland goes out and represents Florida well, and continued that and had some big champs. And I
Yeah,
think
they did.
I think that one of the main ones that most people are talking about is Jace Paradon, and just he avenges a loss from the season. It's another national title for him. Uh, Certainly continues to gain notice and will continue at the next level. Madden Fredenberg, I know when you're a sophomore, there's not a lot at 285, but you still have to wrestle some of the top kids there, and a huge championship, a huge title for Cocoa Beach sophomore to go up there and win the big man.
And won
And
close matches too.
and close matches and did well. This is a kid who knows how to wrestle at that at the high state level, so it's good for him to go up there and have that experience. And then even like Mariah Mills and Willow White going and getting the girls national titles. And for Mills, I know that's a nice bounce back after the state tournament, and Willow White hopefully now maybe a little more noise uh, on a national stage, because we know how special she is here wrestling, and now the rest of the country gets to see just how tough she is.
Just keeps winning, right?
Just keeps winning.
Yeah, she is tough, no doubt. I when I posted the freshman blog post, and I've done freshmen, sophomores, and the juniors are almost done, but it does take a bit of time. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking through the brackets was the fact that there were three Floridians on the podium at 195 pounds.
Yes.
And that's again what Brant
All
says is
class 1A
true.
wrestlers here.
Yeah, that's right. Brand is right in that the bracket is a little smaller, but I'll tell you what. I mean, Xander Horick from Ohio is a tough wrestler. The kid that Mako had in the semifinals was super tough. He ended up beating Jeremiah Chavis for third and fourth. And he had Grant Silverfield, who I believe wrestles at
At
Bulls.
Bulls, the Bulls.
Yeah, who made the podium as well. So I just think that that's pretty cool to have three from the same state, especially one of our southeast states that was on the podium. Um, I'll tell you what, if you guys haven't had a chance to see a little freshman by the name of, I mean, he's not a little freshman, but his name is Harrison Murdoch from Georgia. Harrison, I think he outscored his opponents 100 and something to like 9.
Wow.
Um,
At
he
152.
at 152 pounds, he took some of the absolute best wrestlers and just destroyed them. I mean, I have not seen many wrestlers across the Southeast. I mean, Oriah Mills is a super special wrestler. Oriah didn't wrestle this weekend, but super special wrestler. We saw him at the knockout and those sorts of things. Murdoch from the state of Georgia is that level of kid. So that was pretty cool to see. I want to give a tip of the cap to the state of North Carolina, who, man, I don't know if they had any actual champs
No,
off the
no
top of my
chance.
head. They had
But
no
lots of
chance, but I think they
All-Americans.
had like 40 All-Americans, man. 40.
Oh, you're talking about throughout the whole thing, right?
Four,
Yeah,
40 high
seven,
school All-Americans.
yeah, 7, 13.
I mean, it was pretty impressive to watch them compete and make the podium and everything else.
They had two champs on the girls' side.
They had two champs on the
Yeah.
girls' side.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
And two
so
champs
Faith
in
Bain and Taylor Williams.
Yep.
and that's actually not the young woman that I thought would win. And one of the ones that I actually was thinking was Addison Gore, who I believe beat the girl who beat Maya Alvarado. down at maybe 110 or something like that. So
And, you speak about North Carolina and, we're not going to get in depth on middle school. It's obviously a high school tournament, but the middle school kids that went out there, but, North Carolina had 9 All-Americans, 4 finalists, and 2 champs in middle school. So you talk about the growth of North Carolina and what we're starting to see the success on the high school. Well, obviously, look where it's starting. Their youth programs are obviously doing something right, bringing that kid. Florida had 13, 2 finalists, 1 champion, but you're talking about North Carolina right now, and obviously that shows that their youth is starting to come up pretty
well,
strong.
and yeah, no, I agree with you. And North Carolina surprisingly had one of the most All-Americans as far as high school of the Southeast states. But what's really interesting is that every other state, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, all had champs.
Right.
They all had champs and somewhere along the way. And one of the things that stood out to me, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but at 100 at in the junior division, where where let's be honest, one of the toughest divisions at NHSCA's juniors and sophomores, we had a All-American in every single weight class except for 2 weights, 182 and 285. Every other weight class had at least one, and we had a bunch of finalists. And if you throw in a Louisiana kid at 113 pounds, and I'm telling you right now, Alex Rosas from Louisiana is a stud. He is absolutely. If you throw him in, the Southeast won the first 4 weights. And at 106 pounds, it was a Southeast versus Southeast matchup with Taquavius Mills and Tanner Tran. Then you had Rosas. Then you had JoJo Urchuk from Tennessee. Then you had Antonio Mills. Then you had John Stewart took third, from Alabama, so on and so forth. The junior division, the juniors in the Southeast were supremely good. I was very impressed with the way that they wrestled. And then you look at, look, again, we're going to go back and we're going to harp on this from what Brant said. But Florida had 5 All-Americans. 3 of them were from Lake Highland Prep, including your champ, Zeno Moore. You
Yeah,
know,
which is odd. And yeah, you speak of Georgia, obviously, the Georgia is it Team Georgia anymore? Or is it just Team Mills?
I think they would be a little upset with you if you said Team Mills.
Yeah.
No. But at junior, it was Team Mills, and obviously Ryder Wilder, who we all know, we see him down here a lot, and also,
Well, and Ronan On, who actually won at 220, who was in the finals in Fargo last year, and that sort of thing. But your point is that you got the Mills there, you got the Urichucks in Tennessee. You just have some really good wrestling all the way across the Southeast. Some really, really good, talented kids. I want to throw out a couple names of people that kind of maybe weren't on anybody's radar that I think are really important. One is Jalen Culp. Jalen Culp wrestled in North Carolina 2 years ago for Kings Mountain. He moves to Indian Land in South Carolina. He makes the finals at 160 pounds in juniors. Not somebody that I think most people were necessarily. South Carolina doesn't have a whole lot of, that level of talent and that sort of thing. And to see him and Kason Howell, who won it on the senior division and that sort of thing, I thought was pretty cool to kind of give them a shout out and that sort of thing. Anybody from Florida that trying to think, I'm going to throw out one name from Florida, and he didn't win. He ended up losing to another Floridian in the finals. But Kyle Gallo,
That
man,
was what I was going to say. Yeah.
that's what I was just going to say.
Tremendous weekend for him. Going up 160 pounds in the sophomore. There were things that stood out to me. Emma
It
Hop,
was a 2-1 match with Bo.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Bo rides him out, and wins it.
Emma Hop, state champion in her 5th place match, comes back, ends up winning like 19-16 or something like that, and comes on strong in the third. Another teammate of hers had the same thing in her seventh place match, I believe it was. Isabella Alvarez had like a 16-14 comeback win. Those are the kind of things that mean so much when you're in them. We spend a lot of time looking at the champions, but to still have that fight when you're going for fifth or seventh, those stood out to me. Um, Peter Mako, we can't not, I think, talk about him going up there. We were anticipating, hoping to see the match we didn't get to see in Florida. It didn't happen, but just goes up there and just shows what he's capable of. Uh, that's got to be an interesting place to be when you're the son of one of the greatest heavyweights, and then your brother is a world champion, national champion instead. And like, oh, here comes little Peter, but he's out there making his name now, and
Absolutely.
kind of showed what he's capable of up there this weekend. So that's a good win for him as he continues down his path.
Right. And somebody that impressed me from the great alma mater of Brant Parsons is Isis Brinson made a great,
Yes,
and she was close. I mean, she wrestled Hoppy very, very tough in that match where she got pushed to the other side. But man, she's come along. She's had a lot of growth, and she's doing a great job down there. And just to see her make a run and become an All-American was awesome. I thought she had a really good tournament.
and six
Yeah.
girls were in the finals from Florida. You know that you had Beyonce Espinoza, Isis Severe, Nina Borgman, and Kendall Bibla all made the finals and had great weekends too. And just
Triplets
our
match.
girls continues to show up.
Yeah, if you weren't on the edge of your seat for that match, her and she
Yeah,
wrestled. I can't remember the girl's name from West Virginia. I'm having a brain fart here, but she's a Fargo All-American, four-time West Virginia state champion or Virginia state champion. She's won everything there is to win or place. And Bibla was one takedown. I mean, I think the
yep.
match was two
Just
nothing.
2-1. Kaylee Hall from West Virginia, but
Yeah,
real tight match.
it was really good. I think, obviously Bibla would be much happier if she won, but I think she should be really proud with what she did this weekend.
I agree. I mean, it was one of the things that I always am interested in when I watch it, and I'm looking at the results of the girls especially is, Espinoza, I believe, is a senior. Is that
See,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah, Boardman's a senior, Severe's a senior, Bibla's a senior, Mills is a senior, Willow's a junior.
she's
Is that
coming
right?
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, you see these seniors kind of finish off their careers and that sort of thing. But you always like to look down the list of other individuals and go, "Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? This
Yeah.
person has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They went up there and made an All-American, and they're ready to make a run for a state title next year."
Well, and how about a team slash club that impressed me? Obviously, we know what Lake Highland Prep did, but how about Southwest Miami Eagle Empire having three All-Americans? I mean, they came and they showed up, and three of their kids make the podium. Um,
Well, and I'll tell you what, that podium that Lazaro Soto made at 113, that bracket was
that
tough.
was tough bracket.
And there aren't many kids who wrestle 106 and then bump the weight to 113 for a national tournament. I mean, there aren't many that, if you're doing anything, you're moving down in weight. You're not moving up a weight class.
yeah, so for him to do that,
Unless
and
you can't.
Yeah, no, no, no. Obviously,
Unless you weighed in on that Saturday morning
but I think you got
at
plus.
Silver Spurs, and that's the last time you're ever going to weigh that
yeah,
weight in your life. There are a few of those probably this weekend
Yeah, but
too.
going
I
home
think you
with
got
three,
plus three. I mean,
going home with
Yeah.
three All-Americans for that had to. That's a good job by Mick and his team down there.
I want to do one more kid that I wanted to make sure I talked about, and that was David Hill of Alabama. David in the sophomore division ran to the finals like he did as a freshman. He is one of the best kids in the state of Alabama by far. He drew, I think his name was Jackson Watts from Kentucky in the finals. Watts has never lost a high school match. He beat some studs along the way to get to the NHSCA finals, and Hill gets the first takedown. Next thing you know, Watts goes up like 11-4 or something like that. Hill hits like a 7-point move, brings it, or 11-3, I guess, brings it all the way back to 11-10. We're at the end of the second period, and then they go neutral in the third, and Hill couldn't get the takedown and loses 11-10. So, if you know, these are different things. There was so much wrestling to watch. You know, you kind of flip from this one to this one to this one to this one. And, you know, I watched the Bo versus Gallo match. Gallo wasn't unable to get out
Yeah.
on bottom, you know, in that match. But, you know, if you want to watch some good wrestling, I think it's pretty cool. And then the last thing, I know I just said it was the last thing before, but I'm going to say one more. And that is Cy Strobel from South Carolina. This kid at 145 pounds who ends up in fourth place, he loses, I think, his first match of the tournament at 145 pounds in a 145-pound bracket. He wins 10 in a row
Wow.
to make the Conci finals in matches that were end up being 7-6, you know, 6-5, things along those lines over Pennsylvania State runners up, all sorts of different things. That right there is a grind to get back to being an All-American. Losing in the round of 128 or the round of 64, that is a tough road to come all the way back to make it.
And I know you guys have mentioned, well, at least you, Jason, we've talked about Florida. We've mentioned Georgia, some kids from Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina. How about Tennessee? 16 All-Americans, 6 finalists, 3 champs from girls to boys. I know you're somebody, Jason, that really speaks highly of the growth of Tennessee wrestling. Man,
Yeah.
really,
No, I mean, honestly, you know, so I don't know if anybody knows this, but Tennessee girls were one of the first 5 states to sanction. And you know they wrestle. And if you look at their two finalists, Ireland Lauren, who a couple years ago completely came out of nowhere for me in Fargo, making the podium in Fargo. I didn't know who she was, and I'll tell you what, she's a hammer. The girls from Tennessee are super tough. The boys from Tennessee, you know, when you say Tennessee, just like when you say Florida, you think, you know, South Dade, you think, you know, this program or that program. You know, you say Georgia, you think of Camden. Tennessee, you think of Cleveland, that sort of thing. But you know what? The rest of the state wrestled really well. I mean, you're talking about JoJo Urchuk, who won it at 120. He's from Signal Mountain. Tanner Tran from Father Ryan. Samuel Combs from Lakeway Christian.
his
You
brother
know,
winning it too, right? Ethan.
his brother won it too. Yeah. And that's really interesting in that we had 2 Urachuks win and 2 Mills win.
Yeah. And I think the Eurocek Mills match that you were thinking about never happened because
No, because he moved down a weight. He moved down to 120. Yeah.
I know with the Paradon we were hoping to see
Max Brady.
That's
Yeah.
right there.
right, but Max didn't go. I don't know why. I'd have to contact him, see maybe he just needed a break, right? um, but it would have been that's a matchup that would have been neat to watch.
And
Yeah.
just because we've named every champ in Florida, but two, I just want to make sure we give flowers to Deus Ortiz, winning at the sophomore level at 126, and our one middle school champ Lucas Lane, from Florida.
Yeah. Well, and Adias, I mean, he had one heck of an end to his year. You know, he came in as a 12 seeded at national preps, ended up making the Conci finals. Only loss was to Matt O'Neill out of Malvern Prep or Wyoming Sem. And you know, and then to go on the run that he ran, you know, the people that he beat on his way to that NHSCA title, and that's super good.
Yeah,
Two single point matches in semifinal and final.
Yeah, was
so
it one
win
like
that.
1-0 or
1-0 and then 2-1 in the final, against Kavi Garvey from California.
yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Adias Ortiz. I know I texted Pat, congratulations, but man, talk about a month of emotions for Pat. One child finishes his college career in the blood round, and one child goes and wins NHSCA's. You talk about
Well, and I think Malik lost. I mean, it was another blood round loss because I think he lost last year in the blood round.
yeah, tough losses from the league. But you know what? I'm sure Dad is very proud. Uh, at the career he's had, and they'll look back and be happy. But yeah, it's tough, I'm sure.
No
But
doubt.
but talk about the spectrum of emotions for the Ortiz family.
No doubt. No doubt. Overall, man, I thought it was a great weekend. I thought Southeast wrestled exceptionally well. We brought a lot of kids. Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, New Jersey. Typically, East Coast has a lot of kids there. But we went up and I thought the Southeast kids competed really, really well. I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised when we got a Southeast versus Southeast matchup, and one kid beat another kid. It happened several times when I was like, "Oh, I I wouldn't have thought that that was the case." And I'm
Yeah,
not going to say any names, but there were a couple of those matchups that I went, "Oh, well, you know what? If I had done Southeast rankings, that would have been wrong."
a couple. I thought a girl we had, Camden Elliott, got hosed on the pre-seeds. I think she should have been a pre-seed, so she had to go through a really, really, really tough bracket.
She
Ended
did.
up losing to the number one seed, and I think the four seed or something like that, which sent her out. But like you guys said, bounce back by Mariah, and Willow just keeps winning. And shout out to all the champs. I know before first of all, this puts a bow on folk style.
Yeah, it does.
Really started, but first of all,
Headlocking season, baby.
yes. Now, first of all, to the southeast. Um, Listen, we're not going to go in depth on this, but just we want to give a shout out. The middle school youth programs in the Southeast are definitely growing and getting better. I mean, Florida, 13 All-Americans, 2 finalists, 1 champ. Georgia, 5 All-Americans, 3 finalists, 1 champ. Alabama, 1 All-American, 1 finalist. I guess if you're going to bring one, that was the right one to bring. North Carolina had 9 All-Americans with 4 finalists, 2 champs. South Carolina had 3 All-Americans, Tennessee 2 All-Americans. So shout out to all the youth programs and the growth of that to the Southeast and for bringing those kids. And congratulations to the 4 champs and the 79-10 finalists, and then obviously all the All-Americans. But just wanted to give them a shout out. I know it
Yeah.
doesn't say All-American on your certificate. It says future All-American.
I didn't even know that.
That's pretty
I'm
good.
glad you pointed that out. I did not realize that's what those said.
Yeah, that's what the certificate says. So shout out to those guys and those kids and obviously the kids that won it. But man, I thought it was a great weekend. I don't now moving forward. We obviously the first half of the show we had Florida's team director on to talk about what is happening to the off season for freestyle and Greco season and Team Florida and wanting to learn and listen.
And there's folk style stuff out there too for people who just want to get better locally. Though there's still some of that going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll have
And opportunities throughout the state almost every weekend to compete either freestyle and Greco or folk style or some places all three. So lots of opportunities for those
Well, yeah, and the
looking to get better.
opportunities exist. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to get better, you can definitely get better if you want to.
Yeah, you'll see USA Wrestling and AAU Wrestling offering some folk style weekend tournaments. But also this off season, if you guys aren't paying attention out there and you've made it this far in our show, so to the 2 or 3 people that are still listening, please, there's a lot of camps that are being put out there. There's a lot of clinics that are being put out there. There's a lot of opportunities coming up. Whether you want to stay in the state of Florida and get better this off season, or you want to fly somewhere, there's a lot of colleges putting on great camps out there. You'll see the links coming onto the pages. If you want to get better, there's really
No reason not to.
No
there's a
weekends.
opportunity. And if you don't want to get better, well, I guess that's okay too. You do you, right? And that's okay too. Have a good
Wrestling's too hard to not want to get better, man. I don't understand. I mean, if you're gonna go through that grind, I don't want somebody beating on me. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, with that being said,
All right, man.
anything
See
else
you
you
guys
guys
next week.
wanted to touch on? Yeah, I'd love to get on next week. Anything you
Yeah,
guys
if you have any events, send them my way. I do have a calendar up for Florida events, camps, clinics, tournaments. Doesn't matter who runs it, just send it to me. If you have, believe it or not, guys, I have 20 tournaments already for next season, at least 20 on the schedule. If you're like me, you want to start planning ahead for your high school season, send me your tournament schedule. Those are already up on the site.
And Brand already has his rankings out to start the
we
year.
already, we already have we already have the first update. So we
Yeah.
had the way too early rankings, and we already had the first update every Tuesday. It's not an April Fool's. Every Tuesday we update the rankings. Someone says, "What are they for?" I'm like, "They're for next year."
That's awesome.
I'm up to like 5 or 6 transfers now that I've learned. So I mean, it's constant moving and constant information, and we don't take any time off here.
There you go, man.
There were
See
some
you guys.
April Fools. There were some April Fools transfers yesterday. Those were funny.
Yeah, I had a few of those. I didn't do anything with those.
See you guys.
Okay.